I know a lot of people with muscles, but they don't have any money. They don't have any real passionate relationships in their lives. They don't have any real control over their time. They got mad muscles. They got a lot of, but it doesn't spill over. You would think that would spill over. But to succeed at failing and to fail successfully is not the same. It's so interesting how we take the people that we love the most, our grandparents as they age, our parents as they age, and we discard them from society by putting them into a facility on the outskirts of where life is actually happening. But these are the people who have the most wisdom. And then we wonder why where life is happening is chaotic, because the people who know the most, who can guide us the best, have been outcasted from the society. Because enough of that, enough of you doing that, you start to question, am I really this person that's valuable? The subconscious doesn't believe it, because you wouldn't treat a person who was valuable like that. But today, so many people feel as if because they're successful in business, if they're successful in business, that they're successful in life, and they aren't. As someone who's working as a coach, I understand that most people are not looking for a coach. Most people don't even want a coach. Most people want to be confronted. They just know that they need somebody else to help them do that. As a coach, I'm typically not telling people anything new. I'm just reminding you of what you already know and holding you accountable to apply it to your life in a way that helps you to get the result you say you want to have in your life. But typically not teaching you anything new. Every now and again, maybe yes, but in most instances, no. What do you want?
If someone were to spend their time either reading a lot or doing a lot, what would you choose as the pick?
Reading. Well, I would recommend someone reading a lot above doing a lot. Because there's more happening in life than there is happening to you. So if you're doing a lot, you're only really learning from your own experiences. And there's only but so much context you can get from that in regard to life. And even if you were to ask a bunch of people about their experiences, there's only a handful of people you could ask. You don't know that many people. Relative to how many people exist. Definitely not relative to, or definitely relative to how many people have existed. You can't ask Benjamin Franklin a question right now, but you can read about some of his thoughts and kind of get an idea as to what kind of person he was, loosely. So definitely reading more. It allows you to learn not only from your experiences, but also from the wealth of knowledge and wisdom that came before you, that's available to you. That's the reason why books are valuable. Not just because it's a bunch of words on a page. It's wisdom.
How would you incorporate reading as a habit? Like, what would you think would be like a good, should it be a daily thing, a weekly thing? Should you?
Daily.
How much time should you spend on reading?
I would say allocate an hour of your time to reading, if not 2 per day. It's easier to do if you are commuting to work and you're not driving. If you are driving, listen to an audiobook as opposed to listening to music. But definitely read every day. And not just what you have to read. You're at work, you have to read an email. You're driving, you have to read the instructions, etc. But reading voluntarily, meaning the things that you don't have to read in order to get through your day. But if you make it a requirement for yourself, you make it a habit or a standard for yourself, you'll begin to feel like you have to read. So do that. I would recommend people doing that. Creating this habit so that they notice it if they don't do it. The same way For example, for me at least, for so many years, I listened to music while I took a shower. That it's normal now for me to grab my phone before I go in the bathroom and take a shower. It looks odd to someone who doesn't know me to say, why is he grabbing his phone to go take a shower? Until they hear the music. Now they hear a book or a podcast. Right? So it's just swapping one for the other for me. You don't, and typically that's what has to happen if you want to incorporate new habits into your life. But I would definitely say, if you're a busybody, if you're a person that's doing a lot all the time, think about what you're doing that's not adding as much value to your life as reading would be.
How high would you rank reading as far as habits? Top tier, mid tier, low tier?
The quest for knowledge is very high on the list. Because the quest for self-improvement is very high on the list. That's number one on the list, actually. So there are very few things that are above reading. Essentially. Even sleeping, knowing when to sleep. If you go to bed before 10 o'clock, every hour counts as 2. If you don't read, you probably never would have got that information. So a lot of the facts come from reading. That's why we have textbooks. That's why people write things down. But we overlook that. It's very important in society, but because it's so common in society, we don't see the value of it. Whatever's abundant in life, typically is only abundant because it promotes more life. Life promotes what promotes more life. If it doesn't promote more life, it's probably not that abundant in life.
I'm thinking about like how a lot of kids these days get like a lot of information scattered from social media.
Yeah.
How do you view that? You think that's good? You think that's harmful?
Usually, in my experience, and what I know of other people's experience in life, information is scattered. You pick up a little bit more of it as you go. That's why being relentless about learning is important. Because if you just leave it to life, then the lessons are fewer and further between. And I find that oftentimes reading makes a person more conscious in life in their day-to-day. Right? Because now you're seeking information, especially if you're seeking self-improvement. You're looking for it in every aspect of life. You're looking for it in every glance, everything you hear someone talking about, every name of a street, every name brand, every facial expression, every car, every song is always there. The universe is always speaking to you. And when you realize that, you start looking for the communication. You start listening for the communication. You start using all 5 senses to gather the information coming from the universe. For example, yesterday I was thinking about positive thought and the impact and the power of that and how to condition yourself or myself to think more positively. 5 minutes later, I was thinking negatively. I slammed one plate into the other plate. Almost broke the plate. I was washing dishes. No, I was eating leftovers. And me trying to take the food from the container and put it into the plate, I hit the container against the plate. It was a reminder. You're not focused on what you should be focused on, and could have potentially created a small example of destruction in your life as a result of the negative thoughts in your mind. just that quick. Oftentimes in our lives, karma is immediate. But because we're not paying close enough attention, it takes for something large to happen. It takes for us to experience a very catastrophic level of karmic energy for us to acknowledge the karma. But oftentimes it's immediate if you pay attention. And that was an example of that. How the negative thought leads to something negative. And how the positive thought, for example, if I'm on my morning walk and I'm doing my breathing exercises, how I come back and I have a breakthrough where I'm crying, happened 2 days ago. So these types of things happen when you're in pursuit of knowledge. And now you understand more. Because once you know something, you can't act like you don't know it. Right? Well, you can't. Yeah. You can't act like you can act to the world like you don't know it. And even then, not really. Because there's going to be some type of shift in your behavior, even if it's just a look in your eyes, that someone who really knows you knows there's something different about him, even though you may behave in the same way. So you really can't act like you don't know it anymore. What you can do is decide on how you want to apply it to your life. To what extent do you want to apply it to your life? Do I want to do a little bit? Or do I want to go all out? Do I want to go all in? I want to go all in my life. And so that influences a certain kind of behavior and a certain level of intensity that I experience. Right? Whether I'm proactively releasing energy into the world, or if I'm passively receiving energy from the universe. It's intense because I'm in the moment. I'm looking for it. I'm looking to experience it. And again, it's in everything. For example, this morning I was on a walk and I was doing my breathing exercises and I was listening to Tony Robbins. And something said cross the street. I went across the street. And a car came from, a van actually came from around the corner. And I glanced at the person driving and then I kept looking at the road, looking at where I was going. But I think he waved at me. But by the time I processed it, he had already driven past me. And I thought, how many times in my life was I thinking about something negative subconsciously? And I saw someone else passing me by. And in an attempt to extend a polite gesture, I may have waved at them. But in an attempt to remain on their path, they're distracted by whatever their agenda is, so they didn't see me wave at them. Now, because they didn't see me wave at them, and I'm already thinking negatively subconsciously, I feel a way about it. I feel slighted. I feel like this person is disrespecting me. They didn't even see me. I was wondering if that's what he could have potentially been thinking. And waving at this guy trying to say good morning, and he's blowing me off. I wonder if that had an impact on his morning in a negative way.
That was a very profound insight.
So I remember those times. So and that's just from a wave in the morning. But that moment, because I'm in the moment and I'm proactively looking for ways to improve my life at every instance, I'm thinking like this. If it were another morning without me being so in the moment or so conscious about what was going on before I made a decision to live my life that way, I probably wouldn't even have noticed that. Probably wouldn't even have meant anything to me. If I was listening to a rap song, I probably would have missed that completely. Part of the reason why I'm not so interested in listening to music the way that I once was. And now I'm interested in feeding my mind. Right? Not repeating the same thoughts of lack over and over again, because eventually they seep into my subconscious. And the work that's required to get them out is not worth the work that I did to get them there to begin with. I'd rather spend my time implanting positive seeds into my subconscious and letting those grow, because I don't want to let those go. These negative seeds, I want to let those go eventually, and that's going to require work the longer they're in my subconscious. Because the longer they're in your subconscious, the more life reinforces them. So the idea grows. So it's not a seed anymore. Some things are full trees. It takes a long time to chop that tree down and dig it out and replace it with something that's positive. So reading is important, because that's how you learn these things. That's how you implant positive seeds into your mind. That's how you gain access to the wisdom of Einstein, because you can't have a conversation with Einstein now. Right? That's how you learn, because in a lot of instances, our parents don't even know the answers. In a lot of instances, even more instances, your great-grandparents or your grandparents aren't around to ask them questions anymore. And who really has time for you to be asking them a bunch of questions? Who has time for your interrogation? Who has interest in your interrogation? Who cares about you enough to sit down and allow you to pick their brain? Lots of people, but how many of them do you know? Probably not that many. Why? Because you probably don't believe that they exist. So you don't attract them. It's so interesting how we take the people that we love the most, our grandparents as they age, our parents as they age, and we discard them from society by putting them into a facility on the outskirts of where life is actually happening. But these are the people who have the most wisdom. And then we wonder why where life is happening is chaotic. Because the people who know the most, who can guide us the best, have been outcasted from the society. Meanwhile, we'll take the money that we earn and go pay someone for an idea or an understanding that we could have gotten from those very same people we outcasted for free. So now, metaphorically, who are those people? Who are those people that we've outcasted that have that wisdom and have that knowledge, have that understanding that we so desperately need in order to live the life that we really want to live? Where can we access that information? In books. That's why you should read. Read everything. Read everything that you think is conducive to you actually living the life you want to live. Not just every book that there is, because some books you're not really going to use anything from. Right? There's a lot of people reading a lot of books. They can tell you all already. Because there's like this ego attached to like book clubs and things like that as well. Or people who join book clubs. Right? They love to tell you how they read 50 books this year, 100 books this year. Had nothing to do with what they want to do in life, but they read 100 books.
I think that's what they want to do in life is that.
No, it isn't.
Read 100 books.
No, oftentimes it isn't. That's an activity, that's a goal to read 100 books, but that goal doesn't actually support the thing that they want to do with their lives. It's okay to do something in your life, but what do you want to do with your life? That's a different conversation. Right? Sometimes it's just the ego attached to it, saying that you've read, because we know that's the habit of a lot of successful people, reading. But there's a difference between reading with intention and to learn something that you can apply to your life, and reading for the sake of reading because you feel like reading is the goal. Reading is not the goal. The goal is absorbing the information from what you read and being able to apply that to your life. Read. Read more than you have an interest in reading, more than you have an interest in doing things, if you had to choose. Now, life is the best teacher, so nothing is going to substitute experience. Your experience can substitute reading. Reading can never substitute experience. But because you won't have enough experiences to know as much as you need to know in order to do the things you want to do, that's why you have to read. Because it'll serve as a guide to your actions. And then the experience can reinforce the things you read. That's how they feed off of each other. But reading is essential.
Give your own top 5 books. Underrated top 5 books.
Underrated.
Underrated.
I have to think about that.
Alright. Cool. I mean, you can do it now and then. Maybe in the next session you can come with a new one, like a new list. But like, off the top of your mind.
I can give you 5 books I like, but I don't know if they'd be the top 5 books. Because I'd have to create a criteria for that. To say
What's second?
What determines top 5?
I think it's a combination of things. It's pleasurable to read. It is eye-opening, insightful, and when applied, it has changed your life. Either how you view things or how you do things.
Yeah, but what's enjoyable? Like when we say something is enjoyable to read, what does that mean? The Odyssey is a great book. It's a very long book, but it's a great book. Right? It's enjoyable for a different reason than The Alchemist. Which is enjoyable for a different reason than Outwitting the Devil. Which is enjoyable for a different reason than Think and Grow Rich. Or Money Master the Game. Right. Those are 5 great books. Are they my top 5? No. My favorite book is Outwitting the Devil. So that's number 1. But outside of that, I'd really have to think about why the other 4 are top 5. Outwitting the Devil resonated most with me. And it makes sense why. Right? Subconsciously, our minds are more attached or attracted to negative because it's designed to keep us alive. So it's constantly looking for the things that are wrong. So when you want to understand quote unquote wrong, What's wrong? How does it go wrong? Why does it go wrong? For who does it go wrong for? When does it go wrong? At what point do you pivot toward wrong? If there's any entity that you would go to ask that question, who would understand that most? It's the devil. If you grew up with a religious influence, right? It's almost counterintuitive though, because God is all-knowing. So you could just as easily go to God. Right? But God also has, whenever we think about God, we think about positive reinforcement. So the conversation is different. It's light, it's heavy, but it's motivational. It's positive. It's about what you can do that's great. And it's rooted in positivity. While your brain is looking for negative. Whereas if you're having a conversation with the devil, it's rooted in negativity. But telling you how to avoid it. So it's easier for your mind to attach to the context of that conversation. Especially if you come from a background that promotes being in survival mode. That promotes a host of negativity or negative ideologies, at least. So for me, that book really resonated with me. But also Conversations with God resonated with me, volume 1 through 4. Right? It has this positive reinforcement. It reminds you that God created all things. God is everything. So is there such thing as punishment? Why would God want to punish you? God doesn't have ego. You can't do anything wrong to God. You can't do anything wrong in the eyes of God. There's no reason why God would not love you. Right? When you put these two concepts together, you can understand the picture a little bit better. Now, if you need more and more detail, even though it goes into excruciating detail, but let's say it's too abstract, then you have books like Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza, who's a scientist. So he speaks about it scientifically. Where with him it's like 80% science and 20% abstract. Whereas in the other books it's the reverse. It's 20% science and 80% abstract. So if you're the artist, you may be interested in listening to Outwitting the Devil or Conversations with God. If you're a scientist and you're looking for something that's a bit more tangible, then you can listen to Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, where one is more about what's happening on a biological level. Almost, yeah, pretty much. He even breaks it down to the cellular level, which you can find in the other books as well, but they don't speak to that. In the other books, they don't speak to that with the same extent, scientifically. They give you the overview. So, there's a lot of books. The Placebo Effect is an interesting book by Joe Dispenza. Yeah, there's quite a few. Got 48 Laws of Power. That's an interesting book. We got The Nature of Human Beings. That's an interesting book. As a Man Thinketh. Very small book, quick read, but powerful. We got Power versus Force. Very interesting book. There's quite a few. There's quite a few amazing books, many of which I haven't read. In 10 years, my list may be very different. What's my, well, right now I don't even have a list because I can't even tell you what the top 5 are. So I just have books that I like right now.
You said something earlier about like, what do you say? You said you kind of need negative thoughts to keep you alert.
No, I said your brain is designed to keep you alive. So it's looking for negative things that could potentially threaten your survival. You don't need negative things to keep you alert. You can be very alert as a positive person.
How do you bypass the negative thought then?
Consciously. By standing guard at the gate of your life. By paying attention to your diet, meaning everything you consume. Controlling the information that you dwell on, the thoughts that you dwell on. Other things happen, other thoughts come into your mind because you see things, you're living life. Right? I used to always wonder why people get up and read the same book every day. Why are you getting up and reading the Bible every day? And you're reading the same section, you're not even reading a new section. Why are you doing that? To reinforce it. To reinforce it. Right? That's like asking someone why they work out every day. Right? You don't run one time and expect to be healthy for the rest of your life, or expect to get the results from running every day, even though you did it one time. You got to do it every day. It's the same with information. It's the same with feeding your mind. It's the same with training your mind. It's just, you train your mind like you train your body. Because your mind is going to carry you to the experiences that are going to condition your body. Because memories live in the body, not in the mind. And what attracts you or attracts the things to you that create experiences for you to remember. Your mind. Not your brain. It's different. Your mind. Your mind is subconscious. That's why it's important to train your mind, not your brain. So you reinforce it consistently. So that it seeps into your subconscious, just like the songs do. You play the songs consciously, but you play them so much that they seep into your subconscious. That's why melody is important, because melody makes it easier to slip into your subconscious. That's why you hear a song once and you're repeating it for 3 weeks. Why? You're not thinking about it consciously, but you can't get it out of your head. It seeps in. That's why when you want to teach children something, you sing a song to them with a melody so it can seep into their subconscious. When you're conscious of these ways of teaching and these ways of learning, you understand what's happening around you a bit more. That also comes from reading. But initially, it came from people's experiences. That's why you read. So you can access those people's experience. What did it take to create language? That took a long time. What did it take to understand medicine? It took a long time. It took somebody eating something, dropping dead because they ate it, and you're like, oh, I guess I don't eat that. What else should I eat? And chances are, if you look in nature, the very thing that poisons you, right next to it is the cure for it. They almost grow like right next to each other, oftentimes in nature. How did we know that? Right? So from all those experiences, we can learn. That's why it's almost disrespectful to our ancestors not to read, especially if you're black. Because there was a time when people intentionally kept you illiterate because they didn't want you to have the information. There's a lot of people that died so that we can have the ability to read. There's a lot of people that died so that we can have something to write about, have some wisdom to share, some understanding to share, so that hopefully somebody in the future would read it. Even as an artist. Right? When I'm writing, I think about it differently now. Because before I was really thinking of myself as a rapper. Right? I'm not a rapper. But when I was younger, I thought of myself that way. But even though I thought of myself that way, I understood the importance of the poetic element. Which is why I didn't write it unless it sounded the way that I felt it. Because my thing is, don't hide behind the music. That's why I didn't want to be a producer. Don't hide behind the sound. What are you saying? Right? If someone turned the beat off or someone wrote this on the wall, there's no beat behind it, would it impact them? When I read a quote from Malcolm X, it impacts me. When I read a quote from Einstein, when I read a quote from Newton, it impacts me. There's no music behind it. But some of the songs that I listened to when I was growing up as a child that I thought was so fire, if I read the lyrics, it makes me feel nothing. Sometimes it makes me feel silly. The fact that I've repeated this for so many years.
Did you see that they put Jay-Z's lyrics in the Brooklyn Museum?
No. But I'm happy they did it.
I'll send you the video.
I saw something about them being in the museum, but I didn't watch it. But that's amazing if they did that. Which I'm sure he worked for. Directly and indirectly. But dope. Dope. It's amazing that they're working to make sure that his work is being acknowledged. Because there's so many artists that did amazing things. There's so many people that did amazing things. And if you know, you know. And it just so happens to be that enough people cared about it for it to eventually become something. But he's taken his destiny into his own hands. I'm going to make sure that this gets the acknowledgement that it deserves. Is what it seems like he's thinking about. Right? Because all of these things you have to work for. A Grammy. You don't just get a Grammy. You gotta work behind the scenes for a Grammy. A lot of people don't know that.
Funny that he doesn't have a Grammy though.
Jay-Z?
Mm-hmm.
Jay-Z has 22 Grammys.
Oh wait, what did he have? I thought that was an award that he got snubbed for, and he was like, oh no, he didn't get a Grammy until Annie, that's what he said.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah.
So, it's amazing. He's done a lot of things. Jay-Z got his own, a lot of people was like getting their own sneaker. He had his own sneaker brand. Right? S. Carter's. Right? Which was the old Gucci sneaker. He had his own watch. He got his own Hublot. Right? Luxury timepiece. Some people will argue that. First rapper to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Now he's in the Brooklyn Museum from Brooklyn. That's amazing. That is amazing. Right. So, This goes to show you, man, like when you put your heart into something, the opportunities that you can create from that are endless because you've attached an emotion to it. But how do you know to do that? Constant quest for knowledge. Otherwise, you may do some things that are dope. One or two things. But you notice some people, every time you turn around, there's something else that's fire. Nip was like that. Every time you turn around, Nipsey Hussle was doing something fire. Even if it's not huge, as far as like a big financial play. Culturally, it was a statement. So, yeah, that's amazing. And we can all do things like that in our way.
It's funny, like, to me, it's like, it's such a long, like, where do you even start in order to get at that level of, like, a Nipsey, like a Jay? Because, like, I feel like, yo, I want to make, like, a money play. But I don't have financial means for that.
Start. People ask that question all the time. Where do I start? Where do I start? How do I start? Start. Where did you start with girls? Where did you start with walking? Where did you start with learning math? You started. You say, oh, this was school, and in school they taught us this first. Doesn't mean you learned that first. How did you learn that first lesson? Where do you start? Where you are. How do you start? By starting. Do something to gain some momentum in this space. What you do will influence or inform your next decision. If you do something, you're like, oh, this is wrong. I was supposed to do this. It seems like this thing should have happened before this thing. Okay, then do that thing. And that'll keep happening. Oh, this is the right thing to do. It got me this result. If it got me this result, can I get to here? Yeah, okay, do that thing. Every step you take informs the next step.
There's this part from this book from Tony Robbins where he said, like, decisiveness is not necessarily just a character trait. What it is, but it's something that you can train.
Yeah.
Because if you never make decisions, you have no point of reference.
Nope.
So you just kind of have to decide that you're gonna decide.
Yes.
And from there on, things will unfold.
Yeah.
And you'll make wrong decisions.
Yeah.
But they're only really wrong if you haven't learned anything from them. That's the biggest mistake.
Indeed.
It's not really a question, but
The idea is that you're going to make mistakes anyway. That's the catch. Right? That's life's waves trying to nudge you toward making decisions. Because you're going to make mistakes whether you make a decision or not. The biggest mistake is not making a decision. But even if you didn't make the decision, you're not going to run from adversity. That's going to happen either way. The biggest mistake being not making a decision is you're not sure what to take from that adversity because you have no direction. So it almost feels like adversity in vain.
What does that mean?
That means you're going through a struggle without understanding what to apply the lesson, not understanding the lesson in the struggle even, because you don't have anything to apply it to. So there's no frame of reference, like you mentioned. Right? You don't know what to take from this. Because you don't have any sense of direction in your life. It's not like if you have a sense of direction, you can say, I'm going here, this happened, what can I learn from this that would help me not to make this mistake again, and therefore propel me in this direction toward the goal that I want. But if you don't have any goal, then it's like, I just experienced this thing. And now the subconscious goal becomes, how do I train myself to look for that so that I don't experience the pain of this again? So now you're running from the pain instead of running toward the goal. And that happens with a lot of people. They're not really running toward their future. They're running from their past.
Do you ever plan on writing your own book?
I do. I plan on writing my own book someday. I think I'm too young for it now. I'm too young for, at least for the book that I imagine writing. I could write a book now based on skill sets that I have. But that doesn't excite me when I think about writing a book about negotiations. That's not exciting for me. Maybe an ebook about negotiation. That's exciting. Career, that's another ebook that could be potentially exciting. For me, really, it's about mindset, business and life. And life is both are very loaded statements, right? And one is a part of the other. Business is a part of life.
Also the other way around?
No. We're trying to squeeze life into business today, but without life, you don't have business, because business is a part of life. But today, so many people feel as if because they're successful in business, if they're successful in business, that they're successful in life, and they aren't.
How do you define success?
Accomplishment plus fulfillment equals success.
That's such a Halik answer.
Indeed. Like, you can be very accomplished. You can achieve a lot of things. That doesn't make you successful, because that doesn't necessarily guarantee fulfillment. I've had quite a few experiences in my life now where I've accomplished the thing that I thought, yeah, this is it. And I didn't necessarily feel fulfilled by it. Which is the ultimate failure.
Why do people say that?
Say what?
Like they really talk about like reaching a goal just to find out that it wasn't the goal's like the ultimate failure.
The goal is not the ultimate failure. The ultimate failure is not feeling the feeling you thought you would feel when you accomplished the goal. You have a void within you and you think that doing something externally is going to fill the void within, and it doesn't. What you have within has to be resolved from within. And that's what creates the external world. For example, the void within created the drive to go for whatever this thing was and accomplish it. But it didn't create the fulfillment, because fulfillment is something that comes from inside. And oftentimes accomplishing things is what leads to you understanding that. That's why when you speak to really, really successful people, a lot of them are not really concerned with the external thing that they did. They're more concerned with their mission internally. Like the mission of contribution. I want to help this, I'm doing this for the smile on this person's face. I'm making them pay for it, because if they didn't pay for it, they wouldn't appreciate it. They wouldn't pay attention. And because they're not paying attention, I'm not really likely to reach the goal. If I have a course that I think can change your life, but it's for free, and you don't pay attention to it because it's for free, what are my chances of change? What are the chances that the course is going to change your life? And when that happens, you realize the course doesn't change your life. You change your life. As someone who's working as a coach, I understand that most people are not looking for a coach. Most people don't even want a coach. Most people want to be confronted. They just know that they need somebody else to help them do that. As a coach, I'm typically not telling people anything new. I'm just reminding you of what you already know and holding you accountable to apply it to your life in a way that helps you to get the result you say you want to have in your life. But typically not teaching you anything new. Every now and again, maybe yes, but in most instances, no. A lot of times you have the information that you need, you just have to reframe it.
Can you give an example?
Of course. We all know what it takes to be healthy. We all know what it takes to go to the gym, or at least be healthier. Right? Not everybody's a nutritionist. But you know, okay, you should be sleeping, let's say about 8 hours a day. Let's say, okay, you should be going to the gym, you should be working out about an hour, 4 to 5 days a week. You know you probably shouldn't be eating fried. If you just took the food out that you shouldn't eat, you would have such a better diet. Don't even add anything in. Don't even swap anything. Just take the things out that you know you shouldn't eat. You would have your diet would be just so much better. If you took out fried food, just that alone would increase so many people's health. If you took out the empty calories that you consume, the Snicker bar, the bread, not real bread, but like Wonder Bread in the hood, there's no nutrients in it, right? Not whole foods, right? But all of the empty foods, all of the partial foods, if you took those out of your diet, your health would increase. If you ate less, your health would increase. How could you eat less? You're hungry. Okay, a lot of us heard when we were children, drink a glass of water before you eat. A full glass fills your belly with water so you don't feel so hungry. So now when you eat less. Water goes directly into your bloodstream. Food doesn't. It takes your body work to do that. Fasting, things we've seen our whole lives. Right? We've seen our grandparents do it. We've seen them have a soup fast, where it seems like all they're eating is soups. They're not eating anything solid. We've heard eat your vegetables our whole lives. Right? If you have any familiarity with religion, you hear of Lent, you hear of Ramadan, you hear of these different rituals that show up every year in different religions that speak to fasting. What is fasting? Sacrifice. Why is sacrifice important? It teaches discipline. Why is discipline important? It leads to success. How does it lead to success? Because it leads to you exercising consistency in the right way so that you reinforce your non-negotiables. You can delay gratification. Right? It reinforces self-control, which is the only thing in life that you as a human being have control over. Yourself. That's it. You don't have control over anything else. So we need reminders of that, because that is the most important jewel there is. You only have control over yourself. So why abandon that control when you don't have control over anything else? Meanwhile, we're trying to control everything else.
It's funny, someone pointed out to me, was like a lot of those motivational speakers, they tend to be very overweight.
Mm-hmm.
Those pastors and those
Mm-hmm.
millionaire speakers. I don't know, I thought of that.
Because if a person is overweight, then chances are you see someone who doesn't exercise self-control. But what does it mean to be a motivational speaker in a lot of instances?
I don't know, but for me, that's like a professional motivational speaker,
Mm-hmm.
meaning you charge people to come to your seminar in order to listen to you talk about whatever you think they need to hear in order to get motivated.
Yeah, that's literally what a motivational speaker is. But figuratively, what is a motivational speaker? What do they do typically? Rhetorical question, by the way. But if you think about what a motivational speaker typically does, is inspire other people. Inspire you to do what? To do something. How do they typically inspire people? Negativity. They inspire you by reminding you that if you don't do this thing, the thing that you don't want to happen will happen. Which does what?
Reinforce it.
Which does what?
Make it actually happen.
Keeps people in survival mode. It's another thing to run from. I don't want this to happen. I don't want this to happen. Yeah, I want that thing. We're going to go for it because I don't want this to happen. Right? That's what some motivational speakers do. Great motivational speakers. They help you to understand how abundant you are. And how all you got to do is pull it out of yourself. so that you can have an abundant life. Because you can be an abundant person and not have an abundant life. Because you don't express abundance. Again, it's about giving. Do you give abundantly? Do you add value abundantly? That was me. A person who knew a lot of things, but I didn't contribute very much. Because I was in survival mode, so I walked into rooms afraid. Until someone said something or did something I didn't like in that room. And then I was no longer afraid. I was angry. Which is also, at least I didn't feel afraid. I felt angry. But I felt angry because I was afraid. I just didn't know how to process it that way at that time. And I felt angry because I felt like, now I gotta defend my position. I gotta defend the position that I hold in this room, even though I'm afraid to be in this room. Because I'm afraid to get kicked out of this room as well. That's survival mode. Regardless to where you are, you find an issue with where you are. Even though I got into that room, partially because I was listening to motivational speakers. Until I understood that listening to certain motivational speakers was keeping me in a mindset of lack, and started shifting my attention toward abundance. And the more I did that, the more I stumbled upon E.T., the hip-hop preacher, Les Brown, etc. People that are speaking life into the community, as opposed to trying to frighten the community with death. Death of your dreams, death of a family member, death of your body. Etc. Self-control is important. Self-control is important because it leads to accomplishment. It's one of the elements of accomplishment. Fulfillment is important because without it, you're not successful. Success is important because you can only build on success. And the more successful you are, the more progressive you feel. And the more progressive you feel, the happier you are. The happier you are, the more creative you are. The more creative you are, the more you can give, the more you find ways to give. The more you find ways to give, the more you feel alive. The more you feel like, I'm here. And the more you feel like I'm here, the more significant you feel, the more love you feel. And significance is not a gateway to love in all instances. In some instances it is, but that's conditional love, which is not real love. Your significance comes from you. It doesn't come from society telling you that you're significant.
How do you determine your significance? How do you do that if society does not do that then?
By acknowledging your intrinsic value. You see that before society does. Otherwise, you're living for the opinion of society, and that's not intrinsic value. That's external value. That's based on what you give to society. That's what society can see. Sometimes you meet someone that says you have potential. We hear that a lot. You're not, you're not reaching for your potential. You have so much more within you, etc. We hear that a lot. But oftentimes you have more in you than even that person sees. And you can see it too. But it's hard to justify it. A lot of us are afraid of our own power. Our own capability scares us. And again, that's survival mode. Stay small, blend in. When you stand out, you become a target. But you can become a target for positivity. But when you say that to someone, you become a target, they automatically think negative. I saw it in your face just now. Oh, you become a target. Yeah. Negative. You can become a target for positivity. Yeah. Gandhi was a target for positivity. Mother Teresa was a target for positivity. If you wanted to feel better or have someone that you go to someone that you know cares about you, then maybe grandma is a target for the person you should be reaching out to. She's the target. That's the point that you want to reach. Grandma's house. So it doesn't have to be negative. But that highlights language. The importance of language. You can use a word that's just a word. It can be positive, it can be negative, but based on the context in which you use the word, you can influence a negative thought to be attached to the word. That same thing happens with us all the time, which leads to fear. The language that we use internally. And that's part of what gives you permission to reach your potential. How do you talk to yourself? Especially in a split second and when something goes wrong. If you drop something, is it like super aggressive? It used to be super aggressive with myself. So I used to talk to myself. If I made any mistake, it was like completely unacceptable. And I would address myself that way. Part of it is a learned behavior. Part of it is what I consider a high standard for myself. But who's someone that has high standards for themselves? Someone who believes themselves to be very valuable. So if I really believe myself to be very valuable, I would talk to myself as like I was someone who was very valuable. I would talk to myself as someone who's important to me. My mother is important to me. Do I curse her out? No. My wife is important to me. Do I curse her out? No. I speak to her as someone who's important to me. So why don't I do that with myself if I'm important to me? Why am I cursing myself out? Why am I mad with myself all day because I made a mistake? That can lead to a person not fulfilling their potential. Because enough of that, enough of you doing that, you start to question, are you really this person that's valuable? The subconscious doesn't believe it. Because you wouldn't treat a person who was valuable like that.
So how should you talk to yourself when you mess up?
Politely. Reinforce yourself with positive affirmation. Acknowledge that you did something wrong, yes. But that's part of the journey. Because you're going to do something wrong again. You reprimanding yourself is not going to keep you from doing something wrong. You understanding that doing something wrong is a part of the journey. But what's also important is not to repeat mistakes unnecessarily. Because we want to get to this goal as fast as possible. Why? Reminding yourself of your why. Why you want to get to this goal as fast as possible. And hopefully that reinforces you with some positivity. Sometimes it doesn't though. Because the why is negative. You can have a strong negative why. Because the why is rooted in lack. I need to be successful ASAP. Why? Because I need to make sure that my mother sees me being successful before she dies. And she has stage 3 cancer. That's rooted in lack. It can be very inspiring. It can be very motivational. But it's not rooted in abundance. Life supports what supports more life. Even if you achieve it. Because nature doesn't care about if you're being positive or negative. Nature cares about if you're being definite. Do you know exactly what you want? And are you aligning yourself with the rules of nature and the laws of nature in order to get it? That's what nature cares about. Not if you're positive or negative. That's important for you. But that leads to that lack of fulfillment. So, that lack of fulfillment can be expressed when you, let's say you fail to be whatever success means to you before your mom passes away, who has terminal cancer. Right? And she says to you, you've always been successful. I didn't need for you to try to do this. Don't do this for me. Well, thank you doing it for me, because it ain't doing nothing for my life. I already knew you were great. And now you feel like, damn, all that time I was spending trying to be great, I could have been spending that time with my mom, who's dying. But I'm trying to prove something that's unnecessary. I'm not really trying to prove it to her, I'm trying to prove it to me. Oh, I'm worried about my mom dying, I need to do this and I need to do no. You worried that you didn't do enough for your mom while she was living. That's why you feel like you need to be super successful. It's not about your mother, it's about you again. So your why can be negative. Your why can be rooted in lack. And even though nature doesn't care about that, you should. Why should you? Because it's what informs the karmic energy in your life. What's important in life is relationships. Who wants to be associated with someone who's a liar, who's a manipulator, who's conniving, who has no integrity, who has no dignity? Why would someone want to be associated with that? Nature doesn't look at those qualities and says that those qualities are positive, but people do. And you know that based on the credibility you build, which takes time. And you can build it in a positive way or in a negative way. If you build it in a positive way, it supports your relationships. So it's layered. It's not an isolated experience to say, how do I find my intrinsic value? How do I reach my full potential? What can I use to drive me? It's a dynamic experience.
Sounds like a journey.
Definitely, that's life.
What should you keep in mind throughout that journey?
All of these things. What do you want is the main thing. You have to put it in one sentence. Keep in your mind, top of mind, what you want.
What is what you want doesn't make money?
Doesn't have to. You don't have to take care of yourself. Hopefully you would want to take care of yourself, but you don't have to. There's a lot of, like in New York, there are a lot of people who were homeless, who wanted to be homeless. They could have gone to the shelter. They feel like, I don't trust those people. I don't want to be confined. I don't want to be subjected to a confined space with these people. I'd rather take my chances on the street. At least if I don't like this neighborhood, I can go to a different one. But if I'm in the shelter, locked in that shelter with these people, I don't have any say if, I don't have any control in here. I don't have any say so. I don't get to say who comes in and who doesn't. So, the only thing I get to say or get to have dominion over is me. So I'm gonna leave. You don't have to take care of yourself. You don't have to grow up. Don't have to do that.
Because it's so funny, like the question, like, what do you want from life? It's like, it almost feels now, it's synonymous, like, what do you want to do for a living?
No, that's not the same. What you want to do for a living is, how do you want to contribute to life in a professional way? How do you want to contribute to life in a way that's going to give you financial gain? That's what you want to do for a living.
But then what's the question, what do you do? What do you want from life? What is that? It sounds a bit vague. What do you want to experience?
Yes. What's your goal in life? What do you want from your life right now?
So it's like accomplishments.
Everything is an accomplishment. You can accomplish succeeding or accomplish failing. And then based on the emotion that you feel, that's what determines success, because that's what's going to determine if you're fulfilled or not.
So you can fail, but feel fulfillment and still have accomplished success. By that
Yes.
measure.
Because your success may not be rooted in actually achieving. For example, if I'm a basketball player, If I'm Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul, let's choose somebody else. If I'm LeBron James, is my goal to win a chip? If that's my goal and I lose and I fail, or is my goal to get on the court and give 100% every night? I could have failed at winning the chip, but I failed successfully because my success was rooted in me giving 100%.
There's also some players.
But it's layered, because you can to fail successfully is just to fail also, right? If someone says, oh, you failed, you succeeded at failing. Right? If you go on a court and you don't give your all, you failed. You succeeded at failing. But to succeed at failing and to fail successfully is not the same.
What's the difference?
To succeed at failing means you failed. To fail successfully means you reached your goal, even though you may not have achieved the goal. The goal is to win a marathon, if you're going to run a marathon. Your goal may have been to finish the marathon, just finish the run. So like, oh, you was the last one to come across, yeah, but you mad happy coming across the line, and everybody's like, what's going on with this person? But this person's goal was to get to the finish line. Why? Because last year this person couldn't walk, this person was paralyzed from a car accident that had happened 6 months before that. Now this person finished the marathon. So actually the person that came across the line last becomes the person that everybody's rooting for. They forgot who won first. Right? That's failing successfully. You didn't win the chip. You LeBron James, you didn't win the chip. But you've been in the NBA for 20 years and you still got an average of 24 points, 8 rebounds, and 9 assists this year. That was your goal. To still be a relevant force on the court. Not necessarily to win the chip. Failed at winning the chip. You failed successfully because you gave it 100%. As long as you're doing that, you're winning.
Yeah.
It's not about the goal, it's about your goal. And then you learn that your goal is the goal. For sake of context, don't want to confuse you. Your goal is the only one that matters. Not the goal.
When I was young, I was, the way I do like my fitness, like a very scientific approach. So I was looking at this meal plan that I think I got off the internet with like this fitness plan. And I showed it to my mom and it had like, it was like a lot of food. She got so mad at me. She was like, you're not gonna eat all this. But she was also very much like against like protein shakes and everything. Like just in general, this whole like fitness thing, she was like very, it was a bit frowned upon for me to do it. And then me trying to get bigger, I need to eat bigger. But I'm also, I'm trying to be athletic, and I need to fuel myself. So I do actually need those amounts of like proteins.
Okay.
But I noticed in myself, like every time I was doing groceries, I was still keeping it at a very minimum. Like for instance, like when I was eating, like getting my chicken for the week, I get like 500 grams of chicken.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I'm an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
That's if I want to, like how I call myself, like that's the habits that come, like, roll out of that. And follow. Like if I perceive myself as an athlete,
Mm-hmm.
I'll do certain things
Mm-hmm.
that are congruent with that.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where I'm like, yeah, 500 grams of chicken a week. And there's a lot more things that I can do, but like, it's not gonna cut it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was so like, I think it's in my subconscious, like it's so instilled that's like minimalistic, like amounts, like the big amounts, like somewhere like is wrong or something. It's not correct for me to do.
But also it's large amounts of meat is perceived as unhealthy. So it's not just about muscle gain, it's about how healthy you are. That's why a lot of times when we talk, I talk about training over the decades. Like if I look at your arm and I say, yeah, it's small now, but in 20 years, of course that sounds like a long time.
Yeah, that sounds crazy to me.
I know. Yeah. Oftentimes that's what it takes to just naturally have an arm.
Right, but I've already been working out for 9 years.
Not really.
I've been in the gym for 9 years.
Yeah, but you haven't really been a trainer. It takes 10 years to even know, to even get an idea. It's like what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, especially when you're starting that young.
But what I was getting is like the amount of food that I was eating, I was often keeping it at a minimum.
I know what you're getting at. What I'm saying is, the amount of food that you're eating, although you're trying to get larger, may be perceived as unhealthy. And also, if you're attaching your value as a man to you working out, that can also be perceived as unhealthy. So if you're a young boy that's looking to work out because you think that this is somehow contributing to your pathway to becoming a man, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. However, a mom is probably more focused on you, focusing on who you are, not what you are. Because that's what's going to inform your decisions as a human being. Who you are is what makes you a man. What you are is muscular, slim, tall, short, etc. That's not what makes you a man. So if a parent, a mom, is seeing a child, a young boy, leaning into the gym, thinking that the gym is going to introduce him to manhood, she's probably going to be a bit concerned about that. It's not just about the food. It's not about you saying, I want to eat a bunch of chicken, but because of the conditioning from your parent, your mom, now you don't get more than 500 grams of chicken at one time. To a parent, they're not thinking about that necessarily.
I know it's deeper than that.
Yeah. So, as a man, for example, oftentimes, or as a father or an uncle, if my nephew is saying, I want to go to the gym, because I want to have muscles. I'm going to be a man someday. I want to be strong. I too think that it doesn't make you a man to go to the gym. But there are certain lessons that you can learn in the gym that will help you as a man. That would help you mature. That you'll be able to use later in your life as a man. Right? So this can help you become a man because of the lessons that you learn, not because of how you look. Right? How you look is a byproduct of the lesson. Right? Not to say that there's no lesson in how you look, because there's a lesson in everything. What's the lesson in how you look? It takes time. It takes discipline. It takes consistency. It takes self-control. But it's not sustainable. Because we all get old. Hopefully. Right? That's the battle that everybody is fighting. When you're young, you want to be older. Because when you're older, you have these muscles. But when you get to that point of being older and having the muscles, you're trying your best to keep your body young so you can keep the muscles. Right? That's the lesson from the looks. How to enjoy the moment, how to lean into the moment, and how to know when it's time to hang it up. Right? How to be satisfied with your time. Arnold Schwarzenegger could hang it up and say, I did that. I may not look like that now, but boy, 40 years ago.
That's funny though, because he is still in the gym.
Heavy.
Right.
And to be a man that's almost 80, he looks amazing. He looks amazing. But he doesn't look the way he did at 24.
That's impossible.
And that's the point. It can be, well, yeah, it can be impossible. But there are a lot of people who are stressed because of that. Because there are a lot of people who attached a piece of their identity to that. Yeah, he identifies as an athlete. He identifies as a bodybuilder or someone who's in shape for sure, and someone who trains. Otherwise, he wouldn't continue to do it. He obviously loves it. But he also understands he's not gonna look 26 at 76.
So there's this guy in my gym, he's like 55. Dude looks incredible.
55 is an age that you can still look incredible. 55 is an age you can look better than you did at 25. I think I know this guy you're talking about. Mm-hmm. It is. A lot of people don't believe that. A lot of men. For sure. You can definitely you can look phenomenal. And that's the goal. Right? For some, not for everyone. But for some, that's the goal. Look better as you age. To the best of your ability. Whatever it is at 45, the least you can do is maintain that for the next 20 years. That's the least you can do. But by that time, you should have been able to hit a nice stride. Start hitting a nice stride in your latter 30s if you've had a lifestyle of fitness. Up until that point, you're still learning things, you're still tweaking things, you're still trying to figure it out. But by that time, you're probably hitting a nice stride. And by the time you're in your early 40s, your body can really, really be nice. Right? You can really okay, now you hitting your peak. But from that point on, you can fine tune it and make it even better, for sure. And now you have everything you need. You got all the testosterone, you got all the Your body is filled out, right? You're not still growing. You got a lot of years of training, so muscle memory is on your side. You got a lot of years of health, hopefully, which helps your body as you age. And it's this compounded effort. So the gains are that much more the longer you do it. So you can definitely look better at 55 than you looked at 25 if you stick to it. If you make the necessary adjustments with your body. But if nothing else, you can definitely maintain it. You may have to tweak some things. You will have to tweak some things, but you can maintain it. Yeah. Look at Joe Rogan. Look at a picture of him when he was 25. You look at a picture of him at like 52, 53. I think he's about 55 now.
Really? Dang, he looks younger.
You can see it. You can see his body looks great.
Yeah.
But he prioritizes fitness. But you can make it happen. And that just goes to show that there's longevity, there's a capability for longevity in the human body. You don't have to feel old just because you grew up.
Right. That to me is like a goal. I want to be, it's a goal. Obviously the first one still look like Mark Wahlberg when he was 22. But another thing is like, I want to be 40 and like, if I'm like somewhere in like South America on a hike and I can just like run up a mountain, climb a mountain and like feel good about it, not be like destroyed about it and have to recover for like 2 days somewhere in a bed.
But that's as much about your nutrition as it is about training. It's about taking a holistic approach to your life. But also it's how can you also do that figuratively? Not just literally, physically. Right? And how many areas of your life can you run up a mountain at 40 years old and feel exhilarated? Right? In business, you got this big meeting coming up. That's a mountain. You gonna go in that room and run up that mountain, no problem. Walk out feeling great. Or you gonna go in that room and struggle up that mountain and come out of it needing a vacation. Same thing with your relationships. How do you perceive the mountain? And are you training for that? Because everything in life builds on it. Everything in life builds on everything in life. Right? Everything is building on itself. Everything is influencing the other thing. And oftentimes you have a lot of people talking, for example, people that love to be in the gym. There's a lot of conversation about the gym. Well, where else does it show up in life? You got a lot of bodybuilders that can talk to you all day about the gym. I know a lot of people with muscles, but they don't have any money. They don't have any real passionate relationships in their lives. They don't have any real control over their time. They got mad muscles. They got a lot of, but it doesn't spill over. You would think that would spill over. You see somebody with muscles, you kind of think, damn, they must have their lives together. Look at how they look. They look like somebody that, and then you realize, no, they just have muscles. It's part of why your mom is like, don't just focus on getting muscles. Focus on who you are. That same interest that you have in the gym, all the time, the gym, conversation about the gym. What about that conversation in regard to your career, your business? What about that conversation, that same level of intensity and interest in other aspects of your life, not just the gym? Okay, you're in the gym, bro. We got it. What else?
But can you be passionate about everything in your life? Isn't that like...
No, but there are major aspects of your life that if you don't master them, you're gonna have pain. There's some things in your life that you can't afford to dabble in, like your finances, like your health, like your time, like your relationships. Like your faith, your religion, spirituality, whatever it is you believe in, that you feel like you're connected to, that you get, that helps you to, the source of life that you're connected to that helps you to live out loud. The relationship with that. There's some aspects of life that are very important, major pillars of life. Can't really afford to dabble in them. You can dabble in them. But it becomes harder to live a fulfilled life if you dabble in those areas of life, and it's more than just the body. What's the point of having this amazing physique if you're not doing anything with it? What is it? The point of your body is for you to execute in life. That's the point of it. Right? How do you execute the things that are in your mind? It's not just the gym. So that same interest that bodybuilders, athletes, etc. have in a gym would be beneficial to apply to the rest of life as well. It's not just being a great basketball player, because what's happening to your business? There's a lot of people that were great basketball players or great NFL players on the field, and after football there was nothing, because the only thing to them was football or basketball. It wasn't about life. What about your life? Life is dynamic. It's not just the gym. People that spend all day researching the gym, researching workouts, researching food, researching protein. Okay, well, what about the rest of life? What are you researching there? Nothing. In a lot of instances. But yet we could talk about the gym all day. So it's more than just that. There are multiple pillars in life that are important. The first one, the lowest hanging fruit, is your physical. That's the lowest one. Because without that, you can't do anything. Without energy, without vitality in your body, you can't do anything else, really. You're very limited. So that's the first thing you want to master. Then there's other levels, other things that matter, other pillars in life. It's not just hitting the gym.